It's extremely difficult to find a more exciting team than Feyenoord this season. Arne Slot's 4-2-3-1 tactics are currently dominating the Eredivisie, creating plenty of chances and resulting in plenty of goals. In their last 3 games, they've won 6-1, then 5-1, then 6-1 again. The current champions have scored a whopping 19 goals in just their opening 5 matches. This project is impossible to ignore. And today, I'm going to do my best to break down how Feyenoord are doing this. Spoiler alert, they are the kings of cutbacks, and we are going to recreate this beauty in Football Manager. Arne Slot's football in the Eredivisie is currently proven too hot to handle, and we're going to look at why and how he has set his 4-2-3-1 at Feyenoord. But before we do, make sure you are subscribed, smash the like button. Let's hurt this algorithm and get this video out there. Smash that like button. Also in the comment section, leave some recommendations of future tactics, and also check out the Patreon. But let's look at Arne Slot's build-up play. During the build-up phase, Arne Slot will look to create a numerical advantage against the opposition's first line of defence, and the numbers are dependent on the opposition's structure. Against Heerenveen, who lined up and pressed in a 4-4-2 shape, the numerical advantage wasn't possible due to the opposition being able to match Feyenoord's 6 players initially starting deep, but this created space between the Heerenveen midfield and defence, making it a different type of superiority for Feyenoord, positional superiority. To exploit this, the right fullback hurt Schreider's narrow and deep position, lured the opposition's winger out of position. The Feyenoord right winger would then pull out wide, creating a passing angle, and if that channel is closed, a drop-in attacking midfielder could receive in the right half space from the fullback in possession between the opposition's block. However, in the second half, Feyenoord did create the numerical advantage over Heerenveen's first line as they were more passive in their press. The opposition's left winger was now looking to block the dangerous passing lanes instead of pressing Schreider, in which Feyenoord looked to play around the deeper block using their wide wingers. Slot's Feyenoord this season are patient in possession and like to get the double pivot involved in building and progressing, which shows in their numbers. Feyenoord have completed the most passes in the Eredivisie with the highest completion rate, while Max WIFI has completed the second most passes in the Eredivisie, and central defender Hanko being first. Progressing through the thirds, we start to see Feyenoord's attacking shape. The left winger cuts inside, creating a box-like shape with a double pivot and the attacking midfielder. This draws the opposition's fullback centrally to stay close to the winger, but creates space for the Feyenoord left back to make an overlapping run, and Feyenoord have width down the left. On the right hand side, Feyenoord would also have one player holding the width, but it being the right winger, while the right back stays deep. Feyenoord creates 1v1 situations on both flanks where they believe they will have the qualitative superiority, which shows in their chance creation. Right winger Igor completes the second most dribbles at Feyenoord with the most open play crosses into the box, being able to beat the opposing fullback in the 1v1s. Fullback Schreider plays an essential role for Feyenoord in getting the ball into the final third, and him being narrow for an open passing channel to the right winger is proven effective. They then use the double pivot in central areas to make bounce passes and create third man combinations to progress, which was helped by the pairings' staggered positioning. Being on different horizontal and vertical lines makes marking harder and enables the third man connection. If the midfielders are positioned on the same line, this creates no depth and will be easier to delay progressive play. In the pivot roles in midfield, Timber progresses the team via carries. Timber has completed the most progressive runs and dribbles for the Dutch side, completing 6.14 dribbles per game according to WeScout. At the same time, WIFI is the team's tempo setter, looking for line-breaking passes into the forwards to turn and move into the chance creation, which leads us nicely into chance creation. Feyenoord are the kings of cutbacks. It comes as little surprise to see Feyenoord's XG at 13.45 after just 5 games. Though the XG per shot is actually below the league's average, this is also due to the high number of shots they take, especially outside of the box. But once they work the ball into the wider areas for chance creation, it's all about the cutback crosses. You'll rarely see any floated crosses from open play. The intended destination for these crosses tends to be between just on the edge of the box and just inside it, in and around zone 17, where they will have runners attacking that area, creating an overload. Runs in behind is another way Feyenoord look to score their goals. If Feyenoord can build an attack through the middle, attackers will look to make runs in behind the opposition's back line, waiting for combination play and a through pass. Finally, defensively, Slot wants to put early pressure and defend high to recover possession close to the opponent's goal when the opposition are attempting to build out from the back. It's one way to also create a scoring chance. Feyenoord's PPDA being at 7.89 demonstrates this and their high challenge intensity. The strikers led the press and, against Heerenveen, didn't give the central defenders too much time on the ball and looked to force a mistake or a long ball to turn over possession. The intensity remains when Feyenoord lose the ball after possession. They look to counter-press the opposition and stop the opposition from building an attack, which Feyenoord's initial overload in the central areas can help. If they lose the ball centrally, they will have good numbers to counter-press immediately. The shape out of possession resembles a 4-4-2 shape where they will look to work hard and force the opposition into the wider areas where Feyenoord can jump as a team and defend closer to the opponent's goal. But the trap isn't precisely in the wider areas. Feyenoord are aggressive when the opposition receive the balls in the wider areas and then played it back centrally. The 4-4-2 shape would remain in Feyenoord's deeper blocks and lengthy spells out of possession, defending in a narrow, compact block to prevent spaces in between their lines. If when the opposition do look to play around this block, Feyenoord in defending wide areas will work hard to block crosses from going into their box. That was my Arne Slot's breakdown of Feyenoord so far this season, and what we are going to do right now is go into Football Manager to try and recreate this beauty after you have liked this video. Arne Slot's ball has done extremely well in Football Manager, winning the Eredivisie with Feyenoord. We did finish third in the UEFA Champions League, but then we got to the quarter-final of the Europa League, only losing to Atletico Madrid. No embarrassment there. We did win the Toto Becker and our Johan Cruyff trophy. In the Eredivisie is where we scored the most goals, we had the most shots for, the fewest against. We came third with the most possession, holding 60% of the ball, so it's still a lot of the ball, and we had the most dribbles at goal. In the average rating, the top 6 are all Feyenoord players. Santiago Jimenez scoring 28 goals in 28 starts. Looking at the assists as well, Calvin Stengs with the most assists in the Eredivisie. But that's enough of the stats. Now we are going to look at the tactic. Today's tactic as well is going to be asymmetrical. In the analysis, I mentioned about the staggered central midfielder, the staggered double pivot, and we're going to try and place an emphasis on that. But also in the comment section, somebody did ask for asymmetric tactic, and I thought, well, this Arne Slot tactic is going to be absolutely perfect for it. So in order to create this asymmetric shape, what we are going to do is move this left-sided central midfielder, which would be Timber, onto the central midfield line. We're going to shift the attacking midfielder over to the right, Calvin Stengs, and then move Santiago Jimenez, the striker, over to the left. And here we have our asymmetrical 4-2-3-1 attacking shape. Well, formation. Importantly, actually, we are going to change the mentality on positive, and now when we go to the wing back, I can explain why I'm using the wing back on automatic rather than on support. Now, if I go to edit, the wing back would have a positive mentality. It stays positive when I do use support, but it means that get further forward is hard coded. Now, when we are building out from the back, initially, I want my wing backs, my full backs, to stay deep. I don't want my wing back to have a really high starting position. So initially, or the idea, the theory is to have the automatic duty where initially he will start deep, and then as we build up as a team, he will then use his or adopt that positive mentality. That's the theory. At right back, we are going to be using an inverted wing back on the defend. So when we are attacking, I want my inverted wing back to be deep, not attacking or joining, overlapping, or making too many underlapping runs around that winger. And now when we look at his mentality as well, is going to be on cautious. Moving into central defense, Hanko has played the most passes. He also completes a lot of progressive passes. For that reason alone, we are going to be using a ball playing defender. The right side, the central defender, not so much. so we will leave him on central defense. Now for Max WIFI, I have played around with a few roles here. Deep line playmaker, I did mention he is the tempo setter. Now using a deep line playmaker, I felt on positive he was too keen on playing that key pass, that expansive pass, when really I just want him to be setting the tempo. Register for me was almost similar, but he did roam from his position, which we did not really want. So in the end, I just went for a defensive midfielder on support. And similarly for Timber, I wanted a player or a role that's going to pick up the ball and drive. A Roman playmaker, it says it quite literally in the description, but using a Roman playmaker just means that we will be looking for him more. WIFI is our playmaker, not Timber. Timber will be driving the ball, so we are going to use a box-to-box midfielder, and we are also going to ask him to dribble more with it. Now moving into the attacking lines, on the left-hand side, we are going to be using an inverted winger on attack. It could have been on support, but for better balance in Football Manager, I went for attack. Now his duty is simply to come inside, sort of overload this area. We can create our box, create space for that left winger to hold our width. Remember, the right back doesn't hold the width, and only one player at Feyenoord holds the width during these attacks. On the left, it's usually the left back. On the right, it's usually the right winger. So for the left winger, we are going to be using an inverted winger on support. Attacking midfield is going to be on attack, the Calvin Sting roles. He kind of moves and roams around from his position. He can join the attack line with the central striker. The central striker sometimes might drop deep, and then he makes that counter-attacking movement by being now the furthest man in the team shape. Or he can drop deep and receive the ball from the inverted wing back in that right half space area. But we are going to use the attacking midfielder on attack, and then on the right hand side we're just going to use a wing back, or a winger, sorry, on support. And we're actually going to ask him to cross from his byline, because we do not want him crossing from deep and floated crosses. We want cutbacks. So we are going to use a winger on support, holding the width on the right hand side, and this allows for some underlapping runs, not necessarily the right back. It could be the attacking midfielder making that underlapping run, and then on the right hand side we can do, or the left hand side we can do some overlapping runs. Lastly, up top, a pressing forward on attack for Santiago Jimenez. So now we can move into the team instructions. We are going to be using a fairly wide attacking width, nothing narrow, nothing too wide, a bit of mix, a bit of both. In the approach play, we are going to make overlapping runs on the left hand side and underlapping runs on the right hand side. If the right winger is holding his width, that creates space for an underlapping run. But on the left hand side, if the inverted winger on the left is cutting inside, it's going to create space for an overlapping run. But just in case the left winger can't, or the left back can't make that overlapping run, we just want somebody to make that overlapping run on the left hand side. We are also going to play out from the back, not sure why that wasn't selected. And for passing directness is going to be shooter with tempo on standard, just literally controlling the tempo of the game, racking up those passes. To try and get those cutbacks, we are going to work the ball into the box and with low crosses. In transition, when possession has been lost, we're going to counter press, try and win that ball back immediately. Feyenoord are also deadly on the counter attack as well. They can be deadly when the goalkeeper's in possession. Short kicks to the central defender. Lastly, out of possession, a high press, a standard defensive line. The trigger press is only on slightly more often, and that allows us to actually drop deep into a 4-4-2 block, which Feyenoord do in real life. And we are also going to step up more. More so is when we work the ball wide, is where we can press up and step up more. And Feyenoord do stop crosses in real life, but in Football Manager, totally honest, I'm not exactly sure how that works. So I've just left it blank. I have left it blank, and this here is the completed Arne Slot 4-2-3-1 asymmetric tactic. Now, if you're not an asymmetric fan, don't worry, I've got you. This is the sort of shape that I started the season with. It's more of a normal 4-2-3-1. We do have an asymmetric shape here, but this is more so we can defend in a 4-2-3-4-4-2. If you don't like that, quite literally just move it like that. That wraps up today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out the Patreon. I'm only mentioning that because of the Y Scout. I'm paying a subscription for Y Scout, which nearly cost us £2,000, which, yeah, is a lot of money. So check out the Patreon if you can, only if you can afford it. You can literally subscribe to the lowest tier. I'll see you guys soon. Stay safe. I appreciate you all. God bless and have a wonderful rest of the day.